Good evening, I'm Joel Labi in Hong Kong. Welcome to ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show, UK terror threat up to highest level of critical, meaning more attacks may be imminent. In a landmark ruling and the first in Asia, Taiwan court says yes to same-sex marriage. Hong Kong issues first black rainstorm warning of the year as torrential rain lashes the city all morning. Well, we start with developments in Manchester, where police have arrested 3 men over the concert suicide bombing which killed at least 22 people and injured dozens more. They were taken into custody during raids in the city's south. We're also learning more about the bomber. His name is Salman Abedi, a man French authorities say has proven links to Islamic State. The British government says he recently returned from Libya. The UK is also raising its threat level to critical, meaning another attack may be imminent. Troops are also being deployed to key sites across the country, from Buckingham Palace to Downing Street, and security will also be beefed up at major events. Prime Minister Theresa May says she'll do what's needed to make sure people are protected.
I ask everybody to be vigilant and to cooperate with and support the police as they go about their important work. The spirit of Manchester and the spirit of Britain is far mightier than the sick plots of depraved terrorists. That is why the terrorists will never win.
And we're seeing some pretty incredible scenes in Manchester, where the city is rallying together. Our reporter Katie Gregory is on the ground there outside one of the most poignant memorials.
Well, we're here at the main memorial just outside the Manchester Town Hall. This is where that amazing vigil was held last night. Now, we are seeing the piles of flowers ever expanding as people continue to stream in here to pay their respects to those who have lost their lives in this terror attack, but also pray for those who are still in hospital, who are injured. Some people bringing their children just to see the flowers here, to talk to them about what happened in Manchester a couple of days ago. Now, this really just proves this amazing sense of resilience being shown by the public here in the face of such a horrible, cowardly act.
Manchester has suffered things like this before, and we've come out bigger, better and stronger. People might see it as one of the darkest days in our history. To the contrary, I think it'll be one of our proudest moments.
This is all to show our solidarity with our communities, to show our homage, to show our respect to the families who lost their loved ones, who are in pain. We are with them, we stand together.
Now, as the hours wear on, we are hearing more about those people who lost their lives. We have 4 or 5 names confirmed now out of those 22 dead, including one 8-year-old girl. We have another 64 injured in hospital. 20 of those at the moment are in critical care. We're also hearing more about the suspected attacker, 22-year-old Salman Abedi. Now, it is believed he had returned from Libya. That has been confirmed by a British minister. The Interior Minister, Amber Rudd, also said that it's probable he did not act alone. Now, acting on that, police here in Manchester, in South Manchester rather, have arrested 3 men in connection to this attack today. And as these links and the investigation it continues into the links that Salman Abedi had with Islamic State, but also any links he had here in the country continues, you can expect that the mood on the ground here in Manchester, but also around the UK, will definitely be one of uncertainty going forward.
Hong Kong is also urging travellers heading to the UK to exercise caution in the aftermath of the Manchester attack. It's issued an amber alert warning people to avoid large crowds and be aware of their surroundings. Anyone needing more information can contact the Immigration Department at 1868. Now, in a major victory for gay rights activists, Taiwan's top court has passed a ruling stating that same-sex couples have the right to legally marry. This is the first such ruling in Asia. In handing down the decision, the court said current laws that restrict marriage to a man and woman violates the constitutional rights of same-sex couples. It has given a period of 2 years for the relevant laws to be amended. Over in the Philippines, deadly clashes between Islamist militants and government troops in Marawi have forced President Rodrigo Duterte to declare martial law throughout the island of Mindanao. As Ryan Brooks reports, the leader had to cut short a trip in Russia to handle this crisis.
The southern Filipino island of Mindanao waking up to its first morning of martial law Wednesday after deadly clashes between Islamic militants and soldiers in the city of Marawi the day before. 2 soldiers and a policeman were killed and 12 more wounded in an attack by Maute, a militant group that has pledged allegiance to Islamic State. The group took over buildings and torched a school, church, and jail, leading President Rodrigo Duterte to announce 60 days of martial law over all of Mindanao, a region the size of South Korea and home to more than 20 million people. Duterte cut short a trip to Russia following the attack, calling it an ISIS-orchestrated rebellion, but not before asking for Moscow's help with weapons to fight the insurgents.
I have the money and pay right away because the arms that we ordered from America was cancelled, and I'm having a problem now with the ISIS. There's a rebellion.
Duterte has repeatedly warned that Mindanao is at risk of contamination by Islamic State fighters driven out of Iraq and Syria. Although a military spokesman tried to qualify his comments later, saying there is no ISIS presence in the Philippines, only militants posing as the infamous group.
To local news now, and the observatory issued this year's first black rainstorm warning this morning as torrential rain lashed the city, forcing schools to cancel classes in the afternoon. The black rainstorm warning was raised shortly before noon as areas like Sharkey 1 got flooded. Traffic chaos got worse over the morning rush hour and wreaked havoc for children and their parents on the way to school. But the warning was eventually downgraded to an amber alert about an hour after the observatory said the wet weather came through a trough of low pressure which was affecting the Guangdong coast. A scare for passengers on board a China Eastern Airlines plane amid that downpour. It slid off the runway after landing in Hong Kong. Luckily, though, it managed to stop on the lawn next to the tarmac. None of the 141 people on board were injured. The flight from Nanjing arrived just before 11 this morning after the observatory issued red rainstorm warnings. More than 100 flights were delayed as the north runway was closed for almost 2 hours following that accident. The Development Bureau says nothing abnormal was found after conducting initial safety tests on the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. This follows the arrest of 21 people by the ICAC over falsified concrete test results for the multi-billion-dollar overpass. Permanent Secretary for Development Hon Choo-ki says the Highways Department is closely following the safety performance of the link. He stresses the safety and quality is the government's first priority. The government will hold a press conference tomorrow to further explain the matter. The government is taking another shot at reforming the city's medical watchdog. It plans to submit an amendment bill to LegCo on June 7. The bill failed to pass last year in the face of fierce opposition from the medical profession. The government proposed to appoint 4 additional lay members to the Medical Council, including 3 representatives from patient rights groups and 1 rep from the Consumer Council. Meanwhile, the Academy of Medicine will elect 2 members to join the watchdog. These 6 members would not need to be appointed by the chief executive. Now, it's the philosophy that often stirs debate here, but one of China's top officials says Hong Kong is proof that one country, 2 systems is a success. Zhang Dezhang made the comments during a meeting with members of the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce. He says Hong Kong's ability to remain stable and prosperous over the last 2 decades while suppressing calls for independence means the system is working. Zhang added Beijing cares a lot about Hong Kong and hopes the city will make use of opportunities provided by the Belt and Road Initiative. Coming up next, the latest from the world of business. A late rally has helped Hong Kong stocks to a 4th day in positive territory. The Hang Seng Index ending up 0.1% to 25,428, which is a fresh 22-month high. The market shrugging off Moody's decision to cut China's credit rating. Cathay Pacific was the best performer, adding 6%, while investor darling Tencent stalled from its dizzying heights, losing about 0.5%. Now, as mentioned, this credit downgrade from Moody's rattled China's markets in early trade. It's the first time we've seen a cut like this in a quarter of a century. Graham Mackay explains.
A concrete signal of the growing concern over China's soaring debt. Moody's, one of the world's top 3 credit ratings agencies, downgrading the country's credit score on Wednesday over fears that its financial strength will erode in the coming years. It's the first time Moody's has cut its rating on Chinese debt in more than a quarter of a century. Reuters Shanghai bureau chief John Ruich explains what's behind the move.
The issue at the core here is the debt problem in China, in the economy, in the financial system. Chinese companies, Chinese people, the Chinese government have racked up debt at a rate that's alarmed economists since the global financial crisis. They've been piling on debt. And what Moody's is concerned about is how this debt creates tensions in the financial system.
China's rating is now down a notch from A1 to AA3, still comfortably within the range for an investment-grade rating, but yet another sign the boom times are winding down. That message reinforced by Moody's, which also sees China's economic growth falling to around 5% in the coming years, continuing a steady downward spiral compared to the breakneck pace of years gone by.
There's never a great time to have your credit rating downgraded. For China, though, it's a particularly tough time now because not only do they have this big mountain of debt that they're trying to work through, but economic growth is at close to a 25-year low. What they're trying to do, one of their initiatives is to try to bring in investment from outside. They're also trying to attract foreign investment in the bond market. This downgrade could hurt both of those efforts.
But it's not all doom and gloom. Moody's has also bumped up its outlook on China's credit rating from negative to stable, a bright spot that could help pull investors back in as debt piles and GDP continue to head in opposite directions.
France's election outcome seems to be spurring on business confidence in Germany. Business morale brightened more than expected in May to hit its highest level since 1991. It's a further sign company executives are upbeat about growth in Europe's largest economy, especially given France is the country's second biggest trading partner and new President Emmanuel Macron is pro-Europe. The US government is suing auto giant Fiat Chrysler for using software to try to cheat emissions controls. More than 104,000 diesel vehicles sold since 2014 are thought to be impacted. The lawsuit could lead to a settlement similar to an earlier probe of Volkswagen that cost the car maker up to $25 billion. Fiat denies any wrongdoing. A paycheck well deserved. Royal Dutch Shell shareholders have rejected a proposal by environmentalists to set annual targets to reduce carbon emissions, but they did approve a 60% pay hike for the company's chief executive. This means Ben van Beurden's annual pay will go up from €5 million to €8 million. But some analysts aren't convinced it was well deserved.